hands it off, cuts it back, and into the end zone comes Najee Harris for a 10-yard rushing touchdown, his second of the season.
My goodness, what a great job of following Isaac Suomalo up into the off-tackle hole and did a great job of just running through arm tackles. That was as good a run as I've seen Najee Harris pulling out in the last month. Schneikes, I love that.
The Steelers march it 79 yards on the opening drive. First opening drive touchdown for Pittsburgh since Carolina last year.
What's up, young fella? What's up, young fella? All game. Let's go. Let's get it started. Let's get it started. Let's go. All game. Say it to me again. All game. Here we go.
This pass is caught, and that's a touchdown.
That's the way to work. Come on.
He's hit and sacked. The Steelers win the football game.
Let's go. Come get it. You know what it is.
This one is in the history books.
Here we go.
Welcome to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show. I'm Missy Matthews. Well, it was a short week with plenty of things to fix following the loss to Jacksonville. Now, you could point to the Steelers' nearly perfect record at home on Thursday Night Football under Coach Tomlin, or the fact that only one rookie quarterback has won in Pittsburgh in the last 20 seasons. But it was the Steelers' offense who helped jumpstart this team to a victory by scoring a touchdown on the opening drive, the first time since last season. For more on what went right, let's welcome in Bob Pompiani, who's standing by with Coach Tomlin. Guys.
Hey, Missy, thanks very much. Steelers coming off another win at home, and this one against Tennessee on a Thursday night, which gives them some extra time heading into this big matchup against Green Bay. Head coach Mike Tomlin is here. First off, we always talk about strong starts. You got one in this game, 10 plays, 78 yards. What was the difference?
You know, we converted some third downs. I thought we played on rhythm, made good, timely decisions. It was just a good start, but we weren't running away from our issues. We were running to our issues, man. We wanted the ball. We were going to take the ball, put our offense on the field. It's November, man. It's that time of year. We got to progress beyond some of our current ills because we know that new ills await. That's just the nature of this thing. And so the good start was very necessary. Let's hope that we can attack that with consistency moving forward and present ourselves some new issues to deal with.
Like last season, at this time of the year, your run game really came alive. You had 166 yards rushing against the Titans. I also noticed a lot more, it seemed, at least to me, pulling guards, pulling guys, moving guys. Is that a key to success in the run game for you guys?
It was Thursday night. They gave us some really specific looks, some things that we felt comfortable in, some gap scheme things, some pull scheme things, and we got some young, talented guys that are good at moving, and so it was definitely a recipe for success on Thursday night.
A lot of people like to talk about how some of the rookies have done, so let's do that. Broderick Jones played at right tackle. How would you grade his performance?
I thought he played really well, and probably equally as important, I thought the collective played well with him. Offensive line play is a collective, and I thought he meshed well, particularly with James Daniels in the running game and in the passing game. It looked like they'd done that before.
Yeah, he certainly did. He's a guy with some pretty quick feet, it looked like also. So the plan would be to keep him there?
Yeah, he'll get another opportunity, certainly. He's got to grow up. We need maturity and professionalism in everything that we do. Didn't like the penalty that we got, that he got taking his helmet off on the extra point attempt, but certainly the production and the play is worthy of another opportunity.
Another guy who really stepped up was Deontay Johnson, and it had to feel good for him. I saw the reaction of many of his teammates when he scored a touchdown in that game. How significant was that for him?
To be honest with you, I don't necessarily pay real close attention to who scores as long as we score. I forget about that storyline. But Deontay is a good player. A good player is going to find the end zone, and he does and will continue. It's just good to have him back in the lineup. We felt the effects of the lack of his presence really from week one until very recently. And so to have him back provides really good opportunities for all parties involved. There's a reason why our run game got effective. We got two dangerous receivers on the perimeter, and their presence is significant in run game matchups.
The other receiver, George Pickens, had a potential touchdown, didn't get his foot down. He seemed to be a little unhappy, and I know all these guys want to get the ball as much as they can. How do you get him more involved in terms of volume catching?
Oftentimes success breeds success. We got first downs. We're running the ball effectively, so there's going to be more opportunities for a lot of people. Obviously, George was upset, and he should be. He only caught 2 passes, I think from -1 yard or something like that. He's a dynamic playmaker. He'll be given an opportunity to make plays moving forward. Just a tough night, and we move forward.
Another thing that got a lot of attention was the fact that Matt Canada was on the field. Now, you've done this before at times. What is the positive thing about having your offensive coordinator on the field beyond just a quarterback? I imagine he could talk to everybody.
Communication with all parties involved. When he's in the booth, he can communicate with the quarterback. The quarterback can hear him. There are moments between series where they can communicate interactively via telephone, but largely the coach to player is one-way communication. So obviously the sideline gives you better communication, not only with the quarterback, with all parties involved. The face-to-face component of it is an asset as well. Obviously there's some negatives. You lose the bird's eye perspective. But we're open to trying whatever it is we need to do to improve our efforts in all 3 phases. And that was just one that was really obvious, and so it got some attention. But we're continually tweaking our approach, our processes, and the things that we do in an effort to make the construction of victory a more fluid process.
You strike me as someone who's open to a conversation with all your players. So Joey Porter Jr. said last week he went to you and he wanted DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, I'm sure you get that a lot. What makes you think in that situation that was the right? Was it still right, left, in the middle? What was going on in that situation?
Forget what Joey wants. It has to be good for us. You know, so respectfully, I love his willingness to seek challenges, but we make decisions based on what's best for us in terms of fluidly creating victory. And it was an asset to us to give him that matchup. It minimized some of the things that he had to deal with in totality, to be quite honest with you. So much is made on the coverage component of it, and rightfully so. But not a lot of run game goes to Hopkins' side, so he didn't have to deal with a lot of run game issues. None of the screens, for example, go to Hopkins' side, so he didn't have to deal with screen fits. And so he's a young player. Coverage is in his comfort zone, and so his desire to want to cover him is just a component of it. It had to be advantageous on a lot of levels, and it was.
All right, Steelers coming off a win. They have another home game and a big one. Green Bay Packers come to town. 2 outstanding franchises. We'll talk about the Packers. They're coming off a win as well. That's coming up a little later in the broadcast. Missy, back over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. And on Sunday, it will be Alumni Weekend here in Pittsburgh, and the Steelers will be giving a nod to the teams of the 70s. For the 4th time, the team will wear these throwback jerseys featuring block letters and numbers. They last wore them on Christmas Eve last season to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception and to honor the late Franco Harris against the Raiders. Pittsburgh is 3-0 when wearing them. The Mike Tomlin Show will be right back.
Hey y'all, this is Second Lieutenant AJ Houlihan, stationed off at Air Force Base. Want to give a shout out to the Steelers? Here we go.
Welcome back to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
After more than 40 days without one, the Packers picked up a 20-3 victory over the Rams in Week 9, snapping their 4-game losing streak. And on Sunday, the Steelers look to win their 6th consecutive meeting with them here in Pittsburgh, making Green Bay's last win in the Steel City during the 1970 season. For more on this matchup, let's send it back over to Bob and Coach. Guys.
Hey, Missy, thanks very much. We're here with head coach Mike Tomlin talking about the Green Bay Packers. Before we do that, though, one of your best tacklers and a guy who is doing such a great job on the inside, obviously, is out for the season, Cole Holcomb. I imagine it's a tough thing to try to replace that position, knowing that Minkah Fitzpatrick also is trying to come back from an injury.
You know, injuries are a part of the game. It is unfortunate, obviously, for Cole. He was really finding traction and doing a really good job for us. We had the luxury of having 3 really capable inside linebackers. And so the challenge for us was really divvying up the labor of a 2-person job among 3 capable men. And so we still have 2 really capable guys in Elandon Roberts and Quan Alexander. It might provide more opportunities for a guy like Mark Robinson on defense, but we're comfortable with the guys that we have. But we really had a luxury there when we had 3 really experienced, capable guys, and it really gave us an opportunity to divide their labor up in terms of what it is that they did best. And so we're less versatile now, but that's just a component of it, man. Injuries are a part of this thing. We'll continue to move forward, but equally as important, we'll do a good job of supporting Cole in whatever way he needs to be supported in his rehabilitation process.
All right, let's talk about the Packers. They're coming off a win last week, and Jordan Love had a very good outing. He's kind of up and down, first opportunity really to be the quarterback for the Packers. First couple of games, 6 touchdowns, no picks. It's been different lately. What do you see from Jordan Love, and what are some of the things you have to be concerned with?
I would imagine as a young quarterback, the presence and the availability and the effectiveness of his runner is significant. And I thought what we saw last week was the reemergence of Aaron Jones. He's missed a significant amount of time with a hamstring injury, and even when available, he's been slowed. He played 40-plus snaps last week. He scored a touchdown via the run. A guy like that, coupled with Dillon in the run game that they provide, is real good security and support for a young quarterback. It keeps him in advantageous possession down circumstances. It requires defenses to pack the box to minimize the running game and provides clear pictures for him in the passing game. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Aaron Jones is a dangerous guy in the passing game as well. He's the type of guy that you can throw a short pass to and end up with a 60-yard touchdown. Week 1 before his hamstring injury, he caught a 40-yard touchdown versus the Bears as an example of that. So I really think a lot of it has to do with that component of play and that development of play and those two critical pieces that they've quite frankly invested a lot in. Aaron Jones is a second contract guy, and so they got a lot invested in that position, and I assume that they expect that position to ease the process for the young quarterback. And I thought it was reflective of last week and one of the key reasons why they won the football game.
And they have some receivers who are young and seem to be very talented. I know injuries you mentioned. Christian Watson has had some. What is your takeaway about their wide receiving group and how they're emerging?
Really talented. Obviously, we look at the receiver group every year in the draft. Christian Watson is a vertical guy that's capable of taking the top off the coverage. The Nevada guy, Dobb, he is a combat catcher, big in the red zone, plays bigger than his measurables. The young rookie that they picked up from Michigan State is an ideal slot. I thought he was as complete a slot as there was in this past draft, and his play is bearing that out. And so he's got some talented young guys to grow with. Be remiss if I didn't mention Luke, their young tight end, who's very talented and scored his first touchdown a week ago. What you see is a group that's growing and growing together. A lot of key young pieces, but that running back tandem and their availability and their development of their run game aids all of those discussions.
What's the best way to attack their defense?
You know, we just got to be prepared to be patient. They do a really good job of keeping a lid on it. They got good players at all levels. But the schematic approach, I know, and I work with Joe Barry, their coordinator, very sound fundamentally. He's not going to give anything cheap up. And so we got to be prepared to operate and put together drives.
All right, Coach, thanks very much for that. When we come back, the keys to this game. You'll watch it on KDK coming up this Sunday. Pregame begins at 11:30 a.m. Missy, let's send it back over to you.
Sounds good, Bob, and it will be important for the Steelers to keep pace in the division. The AFC North went undefeated for the third time in 4 weeks, and all 4 teams currently sit in a playoff spot. Coming up next, learn more about quarterbacks coach Mike Sullivan's military upbringing and football journey that brought him to Pittsburgh. Now it's time for this week's Yins Chat trivia question. Who threw the longest pass in a Steelers game versus Green Bay? Terry Bradshaw or Ben Roethlisberger? We'll tell you after the break.
This is Staff Sergeant Jordan Glass, currently deployed with the 143rd Expeditionary Sustainment Command in Camp Arif John, Kuwait. I just want to give a big shout out to my favorite team, Pittsburgh Steelers. Woo! Go Steelers!
Colonel David Payton, U.S. Transcom. And I'd like to give a shout out to the greatest team there is, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Woo!
Welcome back to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
Your Yins Chat trivia answer is Terry Bradshaw. The blonde bomber threw an 87-yard pass to Dave Smith on December 6, 1970. Each week, answer Steelers trivia and make game day picks for a chance to win signed helmets, jerseys, footballs, or even a trip to the 2024 NFL Draft. And don't forget, if you answer the day's questions correctly, you can get double the points. Just log into the Steelers mobile app now and play for a chance at this week's prize, a jersey signed by Deontay Johnson. In the NFL, November marks Salute to Service Month. It's a chance for us to show our appreciation to veterans, active duty men and women, and their families. Now, the Steelers have many military ties, including quarterbacks coach Mike Sullivan, and we had a chance to sit down with him to find out how his love of football and our country led him into the world of coaching.
Another man in the building who has a unique perspective on both Salute to Service and Elijah Riley is quarterbacks coach Mike Sullivan. He, too, attended West Point.
It's so hard to make it in this league, and it's so competitive. I personally am always cheering for him. I know that when his time is done and he's called upon to serve, he's ready.
Coach Sullivan grew up in Santa Maria, California. His father was in the Air Force.
Some of my earliest memories was getting G.I. Joes, and I was putting them in formations and playing football with them. Started playing in middle school, tackle football, did the flag football up until then, and then played in high school and wanted to play Division I football in college. Was not heavily recruited, had a chance to kill two birds with one stone, so to speak, and had the opportunity to play Division I and also serve my country and pursue the military, and that was have a chance to go to Army West Point.
Sullivan started as a wide receiver at Army, eventually transitioning to defensive back.
Upon graduation, I was commissioned as a second lieutenant, and I chose the infantry branch. I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, graduated from Airborne, Ranger, and Air Assault schools, and then was an infantry rifle platoon leader. I think really it was that experience, getting a group to come together and overcome a lot of very difficult and challenging circumstances. I mean, it's the infantry. You're out in the mud. To see those guys come together to achieve a goal really was the thing that I think brought me into coaching. And I remember driving, I was back in California, driving on I-5, and I thought, man, when did I really have the most enjoyment and fulfillment in my life? And it was being around the game of football when I got a chance to play and being around some great teammates and coaches and that wonderful experience at Army. So I just started firing out letters to various coaches. I contacted all the coaches that were at Army still, and my first job was as a graduate assistant in Humboldt State University in Northern California. Very humble beginnings, but it was a great start. From there, I was able to have a chance to get back to Army and spent 10 total years in college before finally having a chance to come to the NFL.
Sullivan has now spent over 2 decades coaching in the league, including a stint as quarterbacks coach with the Giants, where he won 2 Super Bowls with Eli Manning. He joined the Steelers in 2021, coaching Ben Roethlisberger in his final season.
He was in a point in his career where, there were some physical limitations that he was working through, as tough as competitors I've ever been around, and there are aspects to the game that he had already experienced, and so it was more comparing notes, if you will, his experiences and my experiences, because when I had the chance to coach him, I had 17 years in the league, whereas you get somebody that's brand new, a young man like Kenny Pickett, who's just been a dream to coach because of his willingness to work, his passion for the game, his work ethic, his attention to detail, and it's like molding clay. He wants to know what's the best way to prepare throughout the course of the week. What's the structure for studying film, for breaking down an opponent? What are some of the ways and means in which you can work through a progression or protection adjustments, you name it. And so you really start from scratch, so to speak, because it is a transition. It's a big difference from the college game to the pro game. But it's been a joy being around someone that is just so energetic and willing to be coached.
And you can catch the full episode of The Latest Standard on the Steelers official YouTube page. Well, the Steelers got some much needed rest after playing their first Thursday night football game of the season. And under Coach Tomlin, they're 12-4 after 9 days rest, including 6-2 at home. For more on how they can keep it going, it's time for your keys to the game presented by your neighborhood Ford store with Bob and Coach. Guys.
All right, thanks very much, Missy. Coach Tomlin, let's talk about the keys to this one, because you definitely have a game at home. You want to win this game. It's a very competitive AFC North. Everybody seems to be winning at this point.
possession down football is big because it tees up the attrition component of play. We have two capable backs. They have two capable backs. It's important that we convert third down so that we can allow our backs to make their presence felt on the game. And I imagine we better win some on the other side to minimize their two backs. Dylan in particular, him being a finisher. We played him up there 2 years ago in 2021. I thought he wore us down at the end of the game. And so possession down play, teeing up the running game component, the attrition component, I think is going to be a significant kind of undercurrent of this game.
And your defensive line, it should help quite a bit having Cam back, but also you have second round pick in there. When he's been in there, it's been good. How important is that part of this game, specifically to Green Bay?
We need them all, but D-line plays big every week, man. Without the bigs up front, man, you don't have the chance of playing really good defense. That's why we invest in that position group the way that we do. But a lot of people do. They got some quality talent in their front as well. It's the National Football League. There better be an investment there. If not, you're going to be picking really early in the draft.
One of the things you guys have done very well is the giveaway takeaway. You're +8, one of the best marks in the league. In a game like this, how important is that?
That's always our agenda. So I'd be making it up if I act like it's super important this week. That is always our agenda. It's just a recipe for us in terms of how we construct victory.
All right, Coach, thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, it's Pittsburgh, Green Bay, two iconic franchises going head-to-head at Acrisure Stadium. We'll get you set for tomorrow with our pregame show at 11:30 a.m. Game follows, and then 2 hours of postgame. Please join us for that as well. And that's going to do it for our program. For Missy Matthews and head coach Mike Tomlin, I'm Bob Pompiani. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show. We'll see you tomorrow.